How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder. I hope everybody is doing well. Today, we will be recapping the Subway Series. I apologize if this is a little bit late, but had some stuff going on today. My sister graduated, got her master's degree, so that is why I did not get this video out sooner. Congratulations to her, of course. And congratulations to the New York Yankees for taking round one of the Subway Series. The Yankees win their World Series. I'm just kidding. I know that's a joke that, Yankee fans and Met fans like to throw out there to anger the opposing fan base, but the Yankees did take 2 out of 3. I was very happy about this because of what happened last year. The Yankees just got demolished by the Mets last year. There's no other way to put it. The Mets swept the series in 4 games. So, I thought, hey, let's pay them back for last year, and that's what they did. And they could have very easily have won all 3 games. And you could make the argument that the Mets maybe could have won this series and took 2 out of 3. Because other than Friday's game, which is the game I was at, I thought both games, the second game and the third game, last night's game, I thought, or whenever you're watching this, I thought that both those games were up for grabs and either team could have taken it. Now, yesterday's game, when we talk about the 8th inning, things got out of hand, but the Mets could have won that game. So, to kind of go through each game, so we'll start with Friday. So, I was in attendance. This was my first game that I attended this year, and I really wanted to go to this game because of course, this was the first game that Juan Soto was coming back to the Bronx since he signed the deal with the Mets. And the reception was everything as advertised. And if you saw the short that I posted on my YouTube account, that was his first at bat, of course. And yeah, he received a lot of boos. And, he kind of had a little bit of fun with it because, he tipped his helmet to the fans. And, even when, he made his way out to right field, he acknowledged the bleacher creatures who had their back turned. But yeah, it was everything that you would have expected. The F. Juan Soto chants were in full effect. I know there was a lot of people campaigning for, hey, let's say we have Grisham, let's try to do something different. Let's not, do what we normally do when, a player that we might not necessarily like, or, if we have a player that, in their eyes, which I don't think this, he betrayed us. Now, I said it jokingly during the game, but I don't think Juan Soto betrayed the Yankees. But the F. Juan Soto chants were in full effect. That was going to happen. And the boos were continuous throughout the weekend. Every single time he got up to the plate. And in the first game, I felt like in games 2 and 3, the Yankees attacked him more. In game 1, Rodon kind of pitched around him. Now, me, I was like, let's attack him. Let's get this guy out. Let's not let this guy get a free pass and get on first. But, listen, that's what Juan Soto does. Juan Soto is a great hitter. And part of it is he gets on base by taking his walks. And he had 3 walks on Friday. But it didn't really amount to anything. And he really didn't have a good series. Like I said, they tried to pitch around him on Friday. Like I said, he got on base. He did have a single, but he was really a non-factor in this series. In fact, his numbers in these 3 games, he went 1 for 10 with 4 walks, 3 strikeouts, no extra base hits, no RBIs. He did make a couple of nice plays in the field. There were a couple of times where I thought, there were doubles to the wall that I thought, and Dominguez was on base for both of them. I thought Dominguez was going to score, but Soto played him well enough where Dominguez had to hold up at third, going first to third rather than getting home. Because Soto's familiar with obviously playing out in right field last year for the Yankees. And also when he walked his first at bat, the Yankees should have picked him off. And, for some reason, Rodon wasn't able to see that, and he was able to swipe a bag. And then that happened again in the second game that led to a run that kind of made a difference in the game on Saturday. But, yeah, Soto really didn't make an impact in this series. He was not good. He was not good, and a lot of people are all over him for the game yesterday with, some of the effort that he was showing or the lack thereof, particularly when he was running to first base on a ball that he kind of like check swinged. and, had a chance to maybe get to first if he ran out of the box a little bit harder, but didn't. So, yeah, but there was just a lot, going into the series. Soto obviously making his return to the Bronx was the big thing. But, yeah, Yankee fans let him have it. And that translated throughout the weekend. But it was an exciting Subway Series. It really was. But Game 1, most of the scoring took place, pretty much all the scoring outside of one run that the Mets ended up scoring in the ninth inning. Everything happened in the third and fourth innings. The Yankees, they put up a 4-spot in the third inning off of Tyler McGill. I figured the Yankees were going to hit this guy. And coming into the game, he was doing well. It seems like he's going to be the odd man out once they get Frankie Montas back and they get Sean Manaea back. But yeah, he walked a lot of guys, and Paul Goldschmidt, he opened up the scoring. He got a single that was really an infield. It was a broken bat single. Lindor threw to Alonso. He couldn't scoop it, and then that allowed it caromed away from him. Allowed Judge to score on that to make it 2-0. Anthony Volpe had a sac fly. A lot of people were on Soto for the throw home because it bounced 2 or 3 times. So that was another run. And then Tyler McGill ended up walking the bases loaded. And then that led to, he walked in a run. He walked Peraza. And that led to the 4th run. So the Yankees went up 4-0. And you're thinking, okay, all right, that's what you want to see. And then the Mets, they struck back. They tacked on. They scored a run. Brandon Nimmo had an RBI single. So that made it 4-1. But then the Yankees scored 2 in the bottom of the 4th, and that was courtesy of Paul Goldschmidt singling to make it 5-1, and then Jason Dominguez grounded out. That ended up scoring a run. That could have been a double play, but because he's very fast, he ended up being safe. So that was 6-1. Carlos Rodon, he grinded through it. He grinded through 5 innings. I think really for all 3 pitchers. I mean, Clark Schmidt was like perfect through 3 innings, but then he kind of was laboring a little bit, but still put together a quality start. But yeah, Rodon and even Fried yesterday. Like Fried really had to, grind through his start as well. The Mets made him throw a lot of pitches. But yeah, Rodon threw 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. We got to see Jonathan Loáisiga make his return this weekend. He pitched pretty well. Mark Leiter Jr., he pitched a scoreless frame. Devin Williams, 3 strikeouts. He struck out the side in his inning of work. That was in the 8th inning. And then the Yankees put in Yerry De Los Santos. He got into a little bit of trouble. They had to put in Dreamweaver, and he faced Soto, got Soto to fly out, and the Yankees won 6-2. So, yeah, there wasn't really a lot of drama in this game. The Mets did have, like I said, a lot of guys, a lot of ducks on the pond, and they just left them stranded. And even with Soto coming up to the plate in the 9th inning on Friday, even if he does hit a 3-run homer, which I was really hoping he didn't, and he ended up flying out, it would have been 6-5. But, yeah, there was really never a point. I mean, obviously, I was like, well, the Mets can come back. I mean, we saw what they did last year, coming back from deficits. I wasn't counting them out. They still got a very good lineup. But, yeah, no, the Yankees were in control of that game. So the Yankees won that game by a final score of 6-2. So then we get to Saturday's game. You had Griffin Canning going for the Mets, Clark Schmidt, and that was a pitcher's duel. Both pitchers did very well. Not a ton of scoring. Mets took the lead in the 9th inning, and that ended up being the final score. But the Yankees opened up the scoring in the 3rd inning, and one guy I want to talk about, and I really like what I saw from him this weekend, I don't know if it's going to continue, is DJ LeMahieu. So DJ LeMahieu made his return in the Seattle series. He did pick up a base hit in the final game, but I like how he swung the bat this weekend. Now, I don't know if that's going to continue, but he hit a home run. He opened up the scoring, went to the opposite field. Now, that's not a home run, and I think it was only a home run in 4 stadiums. So yeah, it was a porch job, but just the fact that he was able to do that makes me very happy that he's going the other way. And he even hit a ball over 100 miles an hour, later in the game that it was hit right to Soto with the bases loaded late. But he did pick up another hit. Also played really good defense this weekend. He made a nice play, robbing Lindor of a hit. And this was at second base. He's playing second this weekend. I mean, look, it's a very small sample size, but if this is the DJ LeMahieu that the Yankees are going to get, that only makes the lineup even better. And they kind of need him because with Oswaldo Cabrera going down, and, you're not really getting a lot offensively out of Oswald Peraza, and we'll talk about Yorba Vivas in a little bit too when we go to the third game. But if we can get this kind of DJ LeMahieu, again, that makes the lineup better. The problem with DJ LeMahieu is just he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And, you go back to 2021. I mean, it's been a long time since DJ LeMahieu has really been a productive player. But like I said, a lot of that has to do with he can't stay on the field. Can't stay on the field. He's dealing with injuries constantly. So I was very happy for him when he hit that home run. But unfortunately, Goldschmidt did give it right back. Mets put up a couple of runs in the top of the inning, top of the fourth. Soto got on base, ended up stealing third, which led to a run. And so Pete Alonso had an RBI single in the top of the fourth. So that later led to Mark Vientos. Again, like I said, Soto stole third, ended up scoring on the Vientos sac fly. And so at that point it was 2-1. Go to the bottom of the sixth, Cody Bellinger, who had a big series. He hits his 6th home run of the year into the bullpen out in right center. So that tied the game. That was off of Griffin Canning. And, not a lot of scoring in this game. Like I said, next 2 innings, there was no scoring. And then we get to the 9th inning. Fernando Cruz, who has been one of the Yankees' best relievers this season, got into a little bit of trouble. Gives up a hit, walks a batter, hits a batter. I think he hit Vientos. And then Francisco Lindor hits it just deep enough where Luis Angel Acuna could score. And the Mets went ahead 3-2. Edwin Diaz came in for the bottom of the ninth, and he ended up pitching a scoreless ninth. He struck out Austin Wells, got Ben Rice to line out, and then he struck out Aaron Judge on a high fastball. And Edwin Diaz has not blown a save this year. And he hasn't been, the Edwin Diaz of the past. Not 2019 Edwin Diaz, but, all-star Edwin Diaz. But he's been good enough. And it seems like he maybe is starting to turn the corner. I think part of the problem was his velocity. Now, I'm not, I haven't watched the Mets a lot this year, but I think that was one thing that was concerning with him is his velocity was down. But, a couple of years ago he got injured in the World Baseball Classic and, he was out for a year. So, but hasn't blown a save this year. But it seems like, he puts traffic on the bases. He gives Mets fans heart attacks, but he's able to get out of it. So, the Mets did win a close game there. Aaron Judge, 0 for 5 on the day with 3 strikeouts. Picked up a couple of hits in game 1. Yeah, this was not a good game for him, but are we really going to get on Aaron Judge? Still batting over 400, even after this series this weekend. But, look, the Yankees, they left a lot of guys on base. Both teams left a lot of guys on base. And for the most part, both bullpens were able to work out of it. So then we go to the final game. And, I was hoping that the Yankees would, pick up the win, get the series win here. And that's exactly what happened. They put up a 2-spot in the first inning. You had Mark Vientos booting a ball. Paul Goldschmidt hitting into him. Misplayed the ball. He reaches first. Judge hits a ground rule double. And then Bellinger doubles. Alonso dove for it, wasn't able to get it. That scored 2, so that put the Yankees up 2-0 after the first inning. And then the Mets actually did get a run in the top of the second. So Vientos singled, Brandon Nimmo walked. Fried then struck out Starlin Marte, he strikes out Francisco Alvarez, so you think, all right, Max Fried's going to work out of it. Jeff McNeil ends up picking up a base hit, makes it 2-1. So it was 2-1 for a little bit, and then you get to the 5th inning, and Soto ends up getting on base. Actually, no, Soto doesn't end up getting on base. Jeff McNeil walks. Acuna ends up bunting. Jeff McNeil goes to second. Lindor then grounds out, and he ends up on third now. And with Soto up, Max Fried throws a wild pitch, and Jeff McNeil ends up scoring. And then Soto strikes out right after that. So if that doesn't happen, then you escape that inning without giving up a run. But, yeah, Max Fried did make Soto look very uncomfortable in a couple of those at-bats in that game. I mean, those off-speed pitches, those curveballs, I mean, Soto turned his back on one, and that came back in for a strike. And then, he got Soto with that pitch that looked like it was a little bit low, but, good frame job by Austin Wells. They called a strike there. But, yeah, Soto knows the strike zone. And sometimes it could be his worst enemy on pitches like that. But, yeah, he had a couple of strikeouts in this game. But, yeah, not a lot of scoring. Guys were left on base. More so in this game. I mean, if you go through each game, the Yankees left 9 guys on base in Game 1. The Mets left 9 guys on base in Game 1. Yankees left 8 men on base in Game 2. Mets left 9 guys on base in Game 2. Yankees, even with the 8-2 win here last night in the final game, they left 9 guys on base. The Mets left 5 guys on base. A lot of traffic on the bases over the weekend. But, yeah, I mean, there were a couple times where you thought, something's going to give. I mean, we go to the 7th inning. Right? Was it the 7th? Yeah, it was the 7th inning. So, Grisham and Judge both walk. Bellinger singles. And then Volpe comes up with the bases loaded against Braziban, who pitched very well this weekend. He's been one of the Mets' best relievers this season. And actually, and even before the bases were loaded, in Volpe's previous at-bat, he struck out. And actually, no, he grounded out. David Peterson got him to ground out. But yeah, he comes up, 3-0 count, gets it down to 3-2, and he's swinging at pitches inside, out of the zone, and he ends up striking out. And I thought at that point, the Yankees were losing the game. I really did. And it really came down to which bullpen is going to blink first. And it ended up being the Mets bullpen. So Devin Williams comes in and once again pitches a scoreless 8th inning. He gets Soto to ground out. We talked about that. It was like a weird hack. Goes to LeMahieu. He makes a nice diving stop, but Soto's not hustling down the line, so that allows LeMahieu to, throw to first and get him out. And then he gets Pete Alonso to line out, and then he strikes out Mark Vientos. Devin Williams has been pitching good. I thought when he came in, I said he's going to give up a home run. This is where Soto is going to make his mark, and it's going to ruin the whole night. But that didn't happen. It didn't happen. He got him out. So we go to the bottom of the 8th. So Ryan Stanek comes in to pitch. He walks Dominguez. He strikes out DJ LeMahieu. And I'm not really going to fault LeMahieu because, the guy was throwing 100 miles an hour. LeMahieu just got behind it. He wasn't able to keep up with the fastball. He struck out. Then Austin Wells doubled. Soto played the ball nice. Got it in. Dominguez wasn't able to score. And then this was the turning point of the game. Yorbit Vivas. What an at-bat. Fouling off pitch after pitch. These are 100-mile-an-hour fastballs coming at you. I think there was 1 or 2 off-speed pitches that were thrown to him the entire at-bat. But he just kept battling and battling and battling. And I just kept saying, put the ball in the air. Now, he didn't do that. Alonso put the ball in the air because he grounds to first base. And there was a similar play in Game 2 late where I think it was Escara. He grounded out to Alonso, but this was more shallow on the infield. And Alonso was able to throw out Dominguez. That was a clean throw. But here, Alonso just completely airmailed it, and that allowed Dominguez to score. That made it 3-2. Goldschmidt comes up. He takes a 99-mile-an-hour pitch to right center to make it 4-2. Judge comes up. They put in the lefty Cabrera to face him. Actually, no. Cabrera ends up walking Trent Grisham before that. Then he strikes out Judge, and you're thinking, oh, man, they're not going to cash in with these guys on base. And then Cody Bellinger comes out. Cody Bellinger, these last couple weeks, he's looked like a completely different player. He comes up. Now, it wasn't a moonshot. It was another wall scraper. But how fitting is it, as a Yankee fan, you see the guy that replaces Juan Soto hit a grand slam. It just goes over the wall as Soto is, going back to try to get it. Can't get it. It goes over the wall. That blows the game open, and that was a wrap. 8-2. And Pete Alonso took accountability after the game. He said that was on him. That changed the whole complexion of the game, and it did. I mean, you don't know what happens. Alonso makes that play and throws home, gets Dominguez out. I mean, who knows what happens? But that ended up not happening. Yankees go up 8-2 with the Bellinger grand slam. Like I said, Cody Bellinger has been on a heater these last couple weeks. 13-game hitting streak. So he's 20 for 53, 377 batting average, 4 doubles, 4 homers, 7 walks. He's got an 1,129 OPS. Remember when he was batting 170? Yeah, that's a distant memory. And Tim Hill came into the ninth, pitched a scoreless ninth, gets Brandon Nimmo to fly out, Brett Beatty to ground out, Francisco Alvarez to ground out. And that's all she wrote. The Yankees take 2 out of 3. They take round 1 of the Subway Series. Now, round 2 is July 4th weekend, which I'm trying to go to one of those games as well. But, look, these were not playoff games, all right? But, again, I don't care if you're a Yankee fan. I don't care if you're a Met fan. You don't want to lose a series to your crosstown rival. You don't, because it just doesn't make you feel good. It kind of ruins your weekend. It didn't ruin my weekend. My weekend was great. And we're not going to get to the Knicks today. That's going to be tomorrow. But that made the weekend even better. As the Knicks, they advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. They will be taking on the Pacers on Wednesday. And we're going to recap that. Game 6 with Ben on, tomorrow. Hopefully we could do that. But, yeah, it doesn't feel good. Losing to getting swept by the Mets last year was bad. Didn't make you feel good, but taking 2 out of 3, you'll take it. It was a well-played series. The 2 games over the weekend were very good. Friday, again, that was the worst game out of the 3. But with Soto making his return for the first time, that added the juice to it. So, and him coming up in the 9th inning with 2 guys on base, made it a little interesting. But other than that, the Yankees had that game in control. But these games were exciting. It was playoff atmosphere all 3 days. And that's why it's good when you have both teams playing really good baseball, because you get environments like that during the regular season. And those are the games that I like being at. Obviously going to any game is fun, but, when you go to a game over the summer and you're playing, like you go, like for the Mets or the Yankees, you're playing a team that's in last place, there's not really any juice. You're expecting the team to win. Obviously if your team does something, you celebrate. But when you have these 2 teams playing very well, both teams are in first place, crosstown rivals, you get those environments. And that's what makes these games very exciting. And again, especially when you have, both teams are playing some really good baseball. And I expect that to be the same when we get to the series July 4th weekend. Those are going to be some very good games as well. But you do hear the Mets are struggling, with runners in scoring position. That was kind of what we were getting at this whole weekend. I mean, you look at the top 3 in the order. I mean, Francisco Lindor did drive in a couple of guys. Pete Alonso did. Also, Pete Alonso caught a bad break in the game yesterday because he hit a ball that I thought was going out. I mean, he even thought it was going out. But the wind, I guess, ended up blowing it back in. Dominguez makes the catch. and he ended up, being out, and he was surprised by it. But yeah, he caught a bad break there. But yeah, they didn't really do anything. Now, and well, Alonso also did have the RBI single in Game 2 as well. But Yankees pitching did keep him in check. Um, Mark Vientos, I thought he hit a 3-run homer in Game 2 off of Clark Schmidt, but that ended up not going out either. Francisco Alvarez really didn't do anything. We talked about Soto. Yeah, it's Yankees pitching kept them in check. So yeah, the Mets offense is kind of struggling as of late, but you figure they're going to get it going at some point, right? I know last time I checked they were losing to the Red Sox. So yeah, they got the Red Sox now. Then they got the Dodgers over the weekend. So I know a lot of people were talking about how the Mets schedule early on was, to an extent, a cupcake schedule. So now they're kind of playing tough teams. I think they're going to be playing the White Sox and the Rockies soon, so that'll, balance things out, I guess. But yeah, they're kind of scuffling a little bit offensively, but their pitching was good. Their bullpen, most of the guys were good. Stanek didn't have it, and then Cabrera gives up the grand slam, but Brazabon pitched really good. Diaz was good. Their bullpen's been good. And for the Yankees, I really like what I saw out of Loizica. But let's get back to now the Soto stuff. And more, other than Soto, let's talk about what the Yankees did to replace Soto. Because to me, this was the Plan B series. Plan B. Take out the SU and Subway, the B-Way series. Now, because Plan B showed out. Plan B showed out, both offensively and defensively. Because Friday night, Paul Goldschmidt had a couple of hits, but he also had that over the shoulder catch. He goes all the way out to right field to make this catch. I don't know how he did it. Couldn't believe it. Judge was really happy. So I saw his reaction on the highlights, and how could you not be? But he made an unbelievable play. Had a couple of hits. Cody Bellinger, what a series he had. So Bellinger went 6 for 11 in this series, 7 RBIs. He had 2 homers. One of them was the grand slam in the final game to blow the game open, and he had 3 walks in the series. He's been playing really well. We went over how he's done since his hitting streak has started. He has been great, and again, we talked about it. Got off to a slow start. Everybody's talking about how he went through the food poisoning with the bad wings and, dealt with the sore back. So that kind of threw him off a little bit. But now he's right, and he was playing really well. They struck out Judge in the final game. Bellinger comes up, and he makes him pay. And I give the Mets credit. They attacked Judge. They got Judge to swing and miss a couple times in this year. Well, more than a couple of times. But they made him look uncomfortable at times, too. I was hoping for Aaron Judge to tear the cover off the ball this week, and that didn't happen. But you know what? It didn't matter. The Yankees still took 2 out of 3, even with Judge not, having his best series. Well, really, it was one game, but again, we didn't get a home run out of Judge, which I was hoping we would see. But Plan B really showed out. Goldschmidt with his defense and just being a hitting machine, continuing to be a hitting machine, attacking on the insurance run before the Bellinger grand slam in the final game. Max Fried pitching well, grinding through his start, navigating through that tough Mets lineup. And also, we talked about him a little bit, Devin Williams. Devin Williams looked great. Struck out the side on Friday, pitches a scoreless 8th again, was pumped up after striking out Vientos. He's turning the corner. And you sit back and you say, look, I wanted Juan Soto back. I did. As we all did. If you're a Yankee fan, we all wanted him back. But how things have turned out and the contract that he was given. I mean, I know it's May 19th as I'm recording this. But right now it looks like, hey, things turned out good for the Yankees. Because you turned one player into four. Now, Devin Williams has still got to continue to show us that he could still pitch well. Because it's been rough. But he showed us this weekend that maybe he turned the corner. He struck out Alonso on Friday, and the last time those two saw each other, Pete Alonso hit a 3-run homer to give the Mets the lead in the wild card series last year, and many people were saying Pete Alonso broke him. Well, you know what? Maybe Pete Alonso helped fix him. Maybe this series helped him. This was a big series. This was a playoff-like atmosphere, like we were saying. And yeah, he did lose the closer job, but hey, as a setup man to Luke Weaver, if he could pitch like that, if he keeps pitching like that, we'll take it. We'll take it. But the Yankees wouldn't have had Max Fried. The Yankees, maybe they still get Devin Williams, even if they kept Soto, but you don't get Bellinger. I don't think you get Goldschmidt. Ben Rice is playing first base, probably. You don't get Max Fried. And right now, the Yankees really need Max Fried. Because if you have Soto and Garrett Cole goes down, well, Carlos Rodon is your number one starter. And I don't think Yankee fans would have been thrilled with that. And Carlos Rodon has been good this year. He's had a couple of hiccups, but he's been very good. But Max Fried, the Yankees don't lose when Max Fried pitches. They did lose that extra innings game last week against the Mariners, but they don't lose when he pitches. And he didn't pick up the win yesterday, but he still pitched very well. It's against a first-place team. Yankees need Max Fried. So, as of right now, the Yankees probably are better off. And, Soto didn't have a good series. And there's a lot of things coming out from this weekend. I saw a post now. So there was an article that came out. I wanted to talk about this. And this is from NJ.com about Soto. So this is about the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast partly because he agreed to be mic'd up last night. So you know how ESPN, Sunday Night Baseball, they like to mic up their players. So Soto agreed to be mic'd up. And it was going to be in the second inning, but he changed his mind before the game. So supposedly he told Mets officials he was tired of answering questions about Yankees captain Aaron Judge and sick of explaining why he chose the Mets. Just as Soto turned his back on ESPN, he did the same to reporters, so now this is after the game, who were waiting to speak with him in the post-game clubhouse. Soto got dressed and began walking towards the door. He told the Mets official he'd be back to answer questions after seeing family members outside. Soto never returned. That's not the same stand-up guy who was always at his locker last season after being skewed on Friday. Soto spoke of the obligation to take it like a man. 2 days later, he was running for the exit. These are troubling signs for the Mets hierarchy. I'm told they're concerned about Soto's lack of enthusiasm for his new team. The only time Soto seemed happy this weekend was while he interacted with Judge, manager Aaron Boone, and second baseman Jazz Chisholm during batting practice. The man is downright miserable. Although Soto said he was ready for the homecoming, he was shell-shocked by the time Sunday rolled around. 3 sellout crowds broke him. So, that's a lot. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's all accurate. Because there was also things that were coming out like, oh, he's, taking a private jet instead of traveling with the team. I think it was for the series in Boston. Look, I think there is a part of Soto that misses being with the Yankees, and you're constantly hearing that. I know Michael Kay has said it, that he wanted to stay with the Yankees, but his family wanted him to go to the Mets, and he chose the Mets because of all the perks. The suite, his mom gets a spending allowance, all that. So it was a family decision. But at the end of the day, he chose to be with the Mets. Whether it was a family thing, he chose it. He chose to be with the Mets. But you also can't help but notice the body language. Everybody's talking about how he doesn't really do the Soto shuffle. And he just doesn't look happy. I mean, look, he could have chose to stay with the Yankees. If his family was really pressuring him to go to the Mets, well, he should have stepped up and said, no, I want to be a Yankee. But, again, we really don't know the truth. We really don't know. I do think there is a part of him that does miss them. It was a special year. They went to the World Series. He had a great year. He had his best season as a pro. He was batting in front of Aaron Judge. But he decided to go to the Mets. And if that really is how he feels, well, he's got to live with it for the next 15 years. And it's not like the team that he went to is not going to compete. This Mets team is good. You saw that over the weekend in certain areas. Well, this team is good. Like, they may not have shown it. Like, they could have very well have lost all 3 games, but this team is in first place. They're going to make the playoffs, and he's going to be a part of it. But, yeah, it's not like he chose. Like, that's why everyone's like, oh, he went to the Mets. Well, the Mets are not the same team that they were, 10 years ago. Actually, 10 years ago, they went to the World Series. A little bit before that. Like when Mike Francesa was ranting about them, back in 2012, when they got swept by the Colorado Rockies, who came in at 46 and 73, that whole rant. Let's talk that Mets team. I'm talking about that. But yeah, I mean, this Mets team is good. So, and he's going to figure it out. Now, obviously, it's May 19th. We're a couple months into the season now, about to be. And Soto hasn't really lived up to the contract yet. He hasn't been the same. He hasn't gotten off to that start like he did with the Yankees last year. I don't know. I can't explain it. Sometimes these athletes, they get that contract and then all of a sudden they just don't perform because, hey, now I got the money. But I don't think it's that. But you hear all these different things, and I'm not going to, sit here and say, serves him right, whatever. But yeah, he made this decision. If he wanted to stay with the Yankees gave him a competitive offer. He could have stayed, but he went for the perks, and there was more money. It was more of a money thing. Like, I'm still going to stand by that. But it is what it is. He got a sweet deal. I'm not going to hate him for it. I will not hate him. I will be honest with you. There was one boo that came out of my mouth on Friday. Because it was when he was on second base. I think it was after they failed to pick him off. There was a boo that did leave my mouth. But that was it. I had people around me chanting everything at him. I did not. There was no F1 Soto coming out of his mouth. Didn't happen. And I don't have to explain why. But yeah, I mean, this weekend. It was rough because of just the hostility in the crowd, and he tried to have fun with it. Dipped his cap to the fans. He threw a ball into the stands that they threw it back. But look, I know Yankee fans are going to hate him and make him into a villain because he left the Yankees to go to the Mets. And it's like, who cares? But the guy is also a human being. So he could pretend like it doesn't bother him. But when you have 40+ thousand people saying F you, that's going to affect you. And that definitely got into his head. Now, I think eventually he's going to wake up and he's going to have a good year for the Mets. But right now he's scuffling a little bit. He's not putting up the numbers that he did, like I said, last year. But yeah, he's a human being. He was thrown off by this. You know, I mean, he said that was the loudest he's ever been booed before. Because he's been booed before. You know, the Padre fans booed him in his return last year when he returned to Petco Park. I don't remember what the reception was like when he went back. Well, I think there were cheers. Because they traded him. I have to go back and look. I have to go look at the tape. But yeah, I mean, he's getting booed like he's Jose Altuve. Juan Soto's not Jose Altuve. He left for more money. It's probably worse than when... I mean, I wasn't there when Cano made his return, so I couldn't really compare it. I'll tell you, I was more upset with Cano leaving than I was with Soto because I expected Soto to leave. I knew that was on the table. You know, I didn't expect Cano to leave. I was more heartbroken over that because Cano came up through the Yankee system. Cano won a World Series with the Yankees. Cano was going to be the face of the Yankees, and then he left. And I guess that ended up panning out. Now, for different reasons, Soto leaving pans out for the Yankees. But there's just a lot of narratives out there. There's a lot of narratives out there. At the end of the day, he chose the Mets. And, you know, they could say, oh, he didn't want to be in Judge's shadow, which I think that's BS. There was no shadow. There's no shadow last year. They shared the stage. Now, Judge had a better year, but they were awesome together. So I don't think it's that. It was a financial thing, and if it was a family thing, yeah. But I don't believe that. And I know that, and also there was the video of, you know, Judge stretching before the game, and Soto was running out, and they're like, oh, Judge is ignoring him. Well, what happened on Sunday? They went right up to each other. They talked for a little bit. Judge called him the best in the game. You know, don't worry about what's going on around you. They're fine. They're fine. There's no hostility there. Soto is, goes up to Aaron Boone, and he was talking to Jazz Chisholm and the young guys. Everything's good. It's between the fans and Soto. That's where the hostility is. But is that rubbing people in the Mets organization the wrong way? Because it seems like he's happier with, when he's hanging out with the Yankees as opposed to with the Mets. Look, I don't know what his relationship is like with the other players. I don't know. I have no idea. Because I'm not watching the Mets religiously. The team that you see on this hat, that's what I watch. But, I keep up with the standings, of course, and the scores game to game, what everybody's doing. So I don't know. I think the Yankees have a very good, very welcoming clubhouse, and he fit in with them. Because, I heard that in San Diego, they didn't really, the clubhouse wasn't the best. But you know what? When you got Aaron Judge in the clubhouse with the Yankees, he controls that room. And I'm not trying to, say anything negative about the Mets because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but he's on another team now. This is, believe it or not, this is Soto's fourth team. So maybe he's still getting acclimated. I don't know. But he's going to be there for 15 years. And you're telling, what, is he going to just not be able to vibe with this team for 15 years? He's going to just be miserable? No. Because when this team really takes off and when Soto takes off, things are going to get going. He's going to be in a better mood. You got to figure it's going to change. He's not going to be like this. But it's a lot. But you know what? That's what happens. He was out and playing in D.C. and he won a World Series, and then he got traded to San Diego. Now he gets traded to the Yankees, and he signs with the Mets, and now you're in the New York market. Well, once he got traded to the Yankees, and there is so much attention. When you talk about baseball, it's a regional sport, and baseball in New York is huge, and especially with the history between the Yankees and the Mets and the Subway Series, and just the fact that the Mets stole a player from the Yankees, and he signed the biggest contract in sports history. I mean, yeah, you got caught in this storm and this media coverage. And you know what? I don't blame him for not wanting to be mic'd up because, yeah, again, that goes back to the human element. Yeah, he's sick and tired of answering the same questions. Like, he's a Met now. He's not a Yankee anymore. It's kind of like with the Giants and Saquon Barkley. I mean, how many times did Saquon Barkley constantly be asked questions about the Giants? Saquon Barkley is going to be remembered as the Eagle. And guess what? When Juan Soto's career is up, probably going to be remembered as a Met. He wouldn't even be remembered as a Yankee because they didn't win anything with him, and he was only with the Yankees for 1 year. You could probably make the argument he'll be more remembered as a Yankee than he is a Padre, but, it's going to be the Mets and then the Nationals because he won a World Series, and then you'll probably put the Yankees in third. That's it. So, yeah, I don't blame him. And also, like, I know some people were saying, well, maybe it's because, you'd hear the Soto chants in the background, and ESPN doesn't want that being on the broadcast. Whatever. But, yeah, look, bottom line is this. I'll say it again. He is a Met. And for some Yankee fans that aren't over it, they got to move on until they play him again. But focus on this team right now if you're a Yankee fan. Because you know what? Yeah, I told you guys that, I look over my shoulder and think about last year because last year was special and he was a big part of that. But the team that the Yankees have right now is pretty good. It's pretty good. With the young guys and again, Plan B and Judge. And the Yankees are still not fully healthy yet. Now, they're not going to get fully healthy because Garrett Cole is not coming back. But Stanton's going to come back soon. Jazz Chisholm's going to come back soon. Luis Gil is going to come back over the summer. Like, this is going to be a very good team when everybody is healthy. They're going to be even better. And you look at this American League East, they're the only team that's over 500. They are distancing themselves from the other teams. The Orioles fired their manager. All right, the Red Sox bullpen keeps blowing games. The Blue Jays and the Rays are, in the middle. This is the Yankees' division to lose. Now, when I was doing GSMC, I picked the Orioles to win the division because everybody was picking the Red Sox. People thought the Yankees were going to take a step back, which I kind of was because of the Cole injury, and I didn't really know what to expect from Goldschmidt and Bellinger. And the young guys had to take a step forward. But it's a good Yankee team. This is a good team. This team is going to make it to the postseason. They got the best odds to win the pennant. Although, look out for those Detroit Tigers because they're pretty good. Even without Soto, they're still top 2 in every offensive category. So I'm warming up to this team. I really am. I'm there already. I really like Cody Bellinger. I was happy when they got him. Goldschmidt has been a revelation. I mean, the Yankees have really needed a first baseman to step up because Rizzo really wasn't giving him anything the last couple of years. Not really his fault because of the concussion, in my opinion. But Goldschmidt has been a hitting machine. Max Fried, I just imagine if the Yankees had Max Fried and Garrett Cole both healthy this year. That's the best 1-2 punch in the league. Give me a better one if Garrett Cole's healthy. There probably is one that I'm not thinking of. And don't say the Dodgers because all their pitchers are hurt right now. Suzuki's hurt, Glasnow's hurt, Snell is hurt. That's the thing. Quick thing on the Dodgers. Like, including myself, we were saying, man, this could be the greatest team of all time. But I also said, the guys in their rotation, a lot of them have, injury problems. And sure enough, that's happened. So, but, yeah, I wish Garrett Cole and, back to the Yankees, I wish Garrett Cole and Max Fried were healthy together. And we'll get that next year. He said he's going to start, Cole said he's going to start throwing over the summer. But, look, great weekend from Plan B. DJ LeMahieu, hopefully that continues. Aaron Judge didn't have his best series. Maybe we'll see what happens when they play again in July. But yeah, it was the Soto return was everything as advertised. It's just he didn't make the Yankees pay. There were plenty of times where I thought he was going to, and he didn't. So I was wrong there. I thought it was going to fuel him. It didn't, which I said before the series I'd be perfectly okay with that because I do not want him hurting the Yankees in this series. And Alonso really didn't do anything. Lindor really didn't do anything. So, yeah, round one goes to the Yankees. We'll see what happens when these teams match up in July. It's going to be different because Yankees are going to hopefully have Stanton back. And they'll have Jazz back. But, yeah, it was as advertised. It was, the last two games were well played. Actually, I didn't really get into. I know I talked about DJ's defensive plays, but I know the Mets had some miscues. The Yankees had miscues too. Peraza booted a ball. LeMahieu also in this series, but LeMahieu did make a couple of good plays. But also, I didn't talk about the relay throw to the plate in Game 2. That gets hit off the wall, and Brett Beatty was coming around to score. And Bellinger, a great relay throw to Volpe, who then throws it home, and they get the tag on Beatty for the out. Now, again, they still ended up losing the game, but that was a good play. Yankees defense, definitely better. Definitely better than what it was last year. And I know I'm listening to some recaps of the series, complaints about the Mets and their defense and their miscues. Now, I don't think Soto was really a part of that because he did make some nice plays. He robbed Austin Wells of a hit. But, Alonso, the throwing error, and you also had Mark Vientos, misplaying the ball early in Game 3 that set up the first inning. There were a couple of defensive miscues. And if Brett Beatty was playing a good third base in Game 2, he would have probably made those plays off of Vientos. So, or instead of Vientos. But, yeah, that was one thing I forgot to mention was the relay throw home. But, yeah, I don't really, I think that's pretty much it. We covered pretty much everything. This actually was longer than I expected. But we did talk about a lot. Obviously the big topic was Soto. But, I gave him my thanks, my appreciation before the game, but that's it. The page is turned. And, yeah, this Yankees team right now, they're playing some good baseball. The starting pitching looks like it's stabilized. And the bullpen, although it's been shaky at times, they got another big arm in Jonathan Loaisiga back to go along with Devin Williams, I guess, in the 8th from here on out with Luke Weaver as the closer. How about that? So I really like where the Yankees are at, and I hope they continue to play well. They got a tough series coming up with the Texas Rangers. They're facing some good pitching. They're going to see Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi in the series, a former Yankee. The first pitching matchup is, as I'm recording this, is tomorrow night. It'll be Patrick Corbin, who actually hasn't been bad this year because he's had some rough years. But this year he's 3-2 with a 3.35 ERA, going up against Will Warren, who's pitched really well his last two outings. He's 2-2 with a 4.61. Then you got Jacob deGrom against Ryan Yarbrough on Wednesday, and then you got Nathan Eovaldi against Carlos Rodon on Thursday. The Rangers right now on the season, they're 25-23, and they are 2.5 games out of first place in the AL West. currently held by the Seattle Mariners, who the Yankees just played. But the Yankees are 27-19, 7-3 in their last 10 games. Right now, they have the best run differential in all of baseball. They're 4.5 games up on the Red Sox. And I think because as I'm recording this, did the game with the Mets conclude? And yes, it did. They ended up defeating the Mets 3-1. So the Mets have now dropped 2 in a row. Kodai Senga gets the loss there. Aroldis Chapman picked up the save. And actually, is that the former Yankee Justin Wilson picking up the win? In fact, it is. So Justin Wilson, Greg Weisser pitched in the game, and Chapman. So 3 former Yankees pitching in the game. So they get the win. So the Mets drop to 29-19. And as I'm recording this, they are tied now on top of the NL East. Phillies have been playing some good baseball. Braves back over 500 after a tough start. So, yeah, Mets offense continues to struggle as I'm recording this. But, yeah, hope to be at round 2 of the Subway Series. Big win for the Yankees. They continue to win series after they were kind of struggling a little bit. They're playing good baseball. But let me know what you guys think about the Subway Series. Anything we didn't touch upon that I forgot. I pretty much got into everything. So, but yeah, this was a long podcast, and it deserves it because, you know, it was a good weekend. And had the Mets ended up winning the series, we were going to, you know, talk about this series. We weren't going to run away from it, but it does make it extra sweet when the Bronx Bombers come out on top. But let me know what you guys think. Like I said, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And like I said, make sure to watch out for the Knicks recap video / series preview with the Pacers. That should be out tomorrow. I will be joined by Ben, so we'll recap Game 6. We'll talk about the upcoming series with the Pacers. We'll get into all that. So until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off. Have a good one, and I will talk to you guys next time.